Hi, everybody. This is Xana Winans, the owner of Golden Proportions Marketing. Those of you who were lucky enough to join me for last night's webinar realize that we did not have last night's webinar. For whatever reason, my computer decided to become completely internet unstable. If you were one of the unlucky ones wondering what was going on, I truly apologize. Never had that happen before. I was literally sitting 3 feet from the router, and yet it happened anyway. So I'm going to re-record this for you so you can get some good information out of it. And I encourage you to drop me an email or call me with any questions. So let's get started. Let me share my screen and I'll walk you through all of the greatness you should have seen last night. So, what we are going to talk about today is how to reboot your practice for end of year growth. Now, what that means is we're 8 months into the year, and 2021 has, I think, been just as interesting as 2020. And a lot of people are wondering if they're going to hit their goals. So, let's talk a little bit about how we can get there. But before we get started, for those of you who've never met me before, I want to give you a little bit of background on who I am and why I actually have any experience in this at all. And that is thanks to this good-looking guy right here. This is my husband, Dr. Larry Winans. I have been through the entire dental journey from meeting him when he was in dental school, being married to him when he was an associate, creating a scratch practice, moving from insurance to fee-for-service. And ultimately, in the past year, he sold his practice, was an associate for the owner for about a year, and his eventual transition. So literally, if there is anything related to the journey of a dental practice owner's life cycle, I promise you, I've been there. We know a lot. I live and breathe this every day. Now, thanks to him, he kind of helped me get kickstarted over 20 years ago. And we've been able to put together a team of over 24 people who are really absolutely amazing when it comes to developing marketing for dental websites and dental SEO and social media and everything related to marketing a practice. We've got everybody from strategists, project managers, writers, designers, web developers, digital marketing experts, you name it. So these are the people who kind of help me make all of these wonderful things you're going to see come to life. So as I mentioned, we're 8 months into 2021, and my question for you is, are you on track to hit your goals? So I want to know, are you going to nail it? Are you kind of fingers crossed but not completely confident? Or are you thinking, listen, woman, why do you think I'm here? So I'm going to guess a lot of you are probably a little closer to that bottom category and looking for some new ideas. And what we want to talk about is how to develop and maintain a great reputation, how to retain patients, and ultimately how to reinvent yourself. But I want to start with the foundations. These first two things, reputation and retention, are absolutely critical when it comes to developing your foundation. So let's talk reputation. As we know, everybody's got a rep, good, bad, or otherwise. And once you've got it, it's pretty much there to stay. Here is why your reputation isn't just about ranking on Google. Your rep, your reviews are actually more valuable than money. There's a lot of things they can do for you. One, they give you a great competitive advantage. If you have competitors who just don't have things together the way that you do, or don't have as many reviews as you, or don't have the great things that your patients are saying about you, huge competitive advantage for you. It helps you attract more new patients. It actually helps you hire and retain better employees. If you think about it, your own employees, they're not just going to Glassdoor, they're also going to Google and Facebook and Yelp and reading your reviews. They want to see what you're like with patients because that tells them a lot about what you're like as a boss. It helps you build higher quality business relationships. I'll be honest, when we're looking to work with a new doctor, one of the first things we do is we read their reviews that are online. It tells us a lot about, are there some underlying problems that we might not be able to get past, and that no amount of marketing will help. So it's going to give you relationships with better vendors, and ultimately lower your marketing costs, because when you've got great reviews, they are marketing in and of itself. You don't have to spend as much on marketing. Now, if you're not someone who is comfortable asking for reviews, there's a couple things you got to do. To get that great reputation, you need to do this stuff flawlessly. You need to be on time and be gentle, file insurance, be grateful, provide no surprises for people. Pardon me. So getting those reviews without asking just means you have to have an absolutely flawless new patient experience. Why do reviews matter in the first place? Well, 90% of consumers are reading their reviews before they're making a purchase decision. I don't know about you, but I am definitely reading reviews of everything from clothing I buy to a doctor I'm going to see before I call and make an appointment, because I need to know what everybody else's experience has been like so I'm not making a bad decision. As much as we used to just ask our friends and family members for who do we go see as a new doctor in town, this age group, this demographic that has grown up with reviews, that 35 to 54 sweet spot, they trust a review as much as a personal recommendation. An important thing is that 62% are not going to buy from an inauthentic brand. And what that means is if you do not have 500 five-star reviews, that's not only okay, it's actually better for you. When you have nothing but tons and tons of five-star reviews, people have to wonder if these are actual real reviews, especially if you have a lot of them that are just those 5 stars with no comments. So it's okay, while we don't want to have a 1-star experience, it does happen. It's okay to be human. Now, if you do get a 1-star review or even something that's, 2 or 3 stars, half of these people are expecting you to respond to their review within a week. Frankly, you should be responding to every single review within a week, because when you respond to that negative review and quickly, 45% of the people that are reading those negative reviews, and I don't know about you, but when I go to reviews, the first thing I do is I sort by the lowest rating, because I'm looking for where are their challenges and is there a consistent theme. But 45% are more likely to support you if you respond to those negative reviews. So let's talk about the 4 R's of reviews. The first one is recent. Google in particular, these are applying to, cares about how old your latest review is. It wants to know, that you're not getting reviews 4 months ago and then everything kind of goes dead for a while. It wants to see that happening very recently. It's also looking at how regular your reviews are coming in. I'd rather see you have 2 or 3 reviews every single month than do a big spike of like 25, 30 reviews for 1 month and then everything sort of goes dead for a while. It also wants to know how relevant the review is to your business services and how they're listed in Google My Business. So what are your patients talking about in that review? They're going to want to see things like, are they talking about how gentle you are in your care, or how much the team takes care of them, or how beautiful your aesthetic work is, or whatever it is. Google is actually reading the content in the reviews, and it wants to make sure that people are reviewing the right business in the right way. And then it looks at responsiveness. Google does reward you for responding to those reviews and quickly. Now, I'm not saying you got to go back in time, and if you haven't been doing this, go back and respond to a couple of hundred reviews from the past 10 years. You don't need to do that, but make a decision to start doing this regularly, every single day, or at least every couple of days, to go in and write just a quick thank you or some sort of response to a negative review every couple of days to every single review. Now, let's say that you get the dreaded 1-star review. It happens. It happens to everybody. So here's a great example of a doctor. Somebody had a poor experience. He was not comfortable with the x-rays that were being offered. But the last thing that you want to do is, even if you feel like the patient is in the wrong, you can't have a passive aggressive response. So when this response was written that said, "We're sorry you had a bad experience at our office and that you've been in pain for the past year," that's putting the blame back on the patient. Our assistant tried her best to explain why you were better off with a pan x-ray instead of a 1-tooth x-ray. She called you back after you stormed out of the office because she was attempting to help you, especially since you have been in pain for so long. If I am a prospective patient reading this, it is crystal clear that this doctor feels extremely defensive and that the patient is in the wrong. By the way, I've blocked out both the name of the practice and the reviewer to save them a little bit of embarrassment. This is not how you want to handle a 1-star review. Here's how you want to respond the right way. First, try and identify the patient, whether through the name or their situation. Do your best to resolve the issue. I believe it is best for the doctor to personally call the patient and to explain Just say, I understand you didn't have a great experience. Can you tell me more about what happened? And just be quiet and let them talk. People mostly just want to be heard. Validate that from their point of view, they are right. And if there's a way to resolve the issue, great. If we're talking about a $50 balance and, writing it off is going to pacify this person and help resolve the issue, sometimes it is worth the cost of that. I'm not saying you should let your patients hold you hostage over their balances. I have heard of that happening, but do your very best to resolve the issue. Now, if you either can't get a hold of the patient or you can't resolve the issue, it is perfectly appropriate to write a public response. I find it's a good idea to write your response, step away from the computer for an hour, let somebody else read it so it doesn't come across as passive aggressive, and then you can post it. A really important step is to change something from that person's point of view, the person who wrote the review, whether you agree with them or not, but from their point of view, they are valid, they are right. So that means there was a mismanaged expectation. So see what you can learn from this negative review and change something. Change how you discuss the new patient experience over the phone before somebody comes in. Change how you're going to discuss finances. Whatever it is, you should probably be changing something in your practice. Of course, you want to pile on the positive reviews. If you've got one negative review, you're going to need about 10 positive reviews to outweigh it, so start asking regularly. And then if you just can't get past a scathing negative review, sometimes it's worth considering the source. So let me share an example. So my husband, as I mentioned, has officially exited dentistry, is retired from dentistry. And what he's doing right now is he opened a craft brewery in our town in central Pennsylvania. And of course, people love to review restaurants and breweries. And we take those reviews very seriously. It's something we learn from, we get better from. But occasionally you get one and you just don't understand where it came from. So I'm going to share this with you just because there's a little humor in it. This particular reviewer said, great place, beer good, cocktails very weak, lots of ice, no flavor, which frankly I disagree with. Food awful and lacking in imagination and flavor, sadly just not good. Prices up there for snack food. Well, first of all, the food is spectacular. We have an excellent chef. But our chef was very, very upset about this particular review. And so I thought for a minute, and before I responded to this individual, I thought, you know what, I want to just kind of check out what he considers to be good. Let's see if he's reviewed any other restaurants. And so I clicked on his profile, Izzy Fedora, and was able to see he actually reviewed a lot of restaurants, and pretty much every single restaurant that he went to got 1 star, with these 3 exceptions. Burger King, McDonald's, and Subway all got 5-star reviews, which to me just gives an awful lot of perspective when someone is reviewing, American fusion food at a high upscale craft brewery. Their taste is just not our taste. And so for this particular review, I was able to just write, we're going to have to agree to disagree here. Now, here's a great way to ask for reviews. I truly believe that in this world, you get what you ask for. So I have found that when you want to get more reviews, it really helps for the doctor, and this is not team members, this is for the doctor to use a script similar to this. So, Mrs. Winans, when you leave our office today, you should receive a text message asking about your visit today. I would consider it a personal favor if you would take a minute to rate us and share a few comments about what makes us your dental practice of choice. This will help other patients know what to expect when they're considering us for care. Thanks for taking the time to do this. I appreciate you. 90% of customers are leaving their reviews because they want to help future customers make good decisions. So all you're doing is literally asking that. You're asking your patient as a personal favor, could you leave a review as a favor so that someone else could be making a good decision about whether or not to come to our practice? Now, the best way to make more money, in my humble opinion, is not to waste what and who you have. And this is where we're going to talk about retention a little bit. Retention is huge. One of the things that we measure, we have a software platform that allows us to connect to your practice management software, and it helps us see not just the new patients that are coming in and what their return on investment is, but we want to make sure that we're getting traction with the marketing that we're doing and the practice is growing in the right way. So we look at a net reappointment rate, which is how many new patients were gotten in a particular year from the marketing, but how many patients were lost because the practice is not retaining them. And that means that if all you're doing is roughly losing as many as you gain, or worse, losing more than you gain as new patients, your practice is only going to grow at a very, very slow rate. This is really important to measure. Some of this happens with your reappointment percentage, making sure that your hygiene patients are getting reappointed before they leave the practice, assuming that they fit your A and B patient profile. But measuring individual providers, your hygienists, different doctors, to make sure that patients are coming back in gives you a good idea of what people think of your practice. That reappointment rate really ought to be above 80% or higher. And then looking at your overdue patients, to retain them, you've got to be active with them. Not everybody is going to make that appointment right before they walk out the door. So having a regular process of pulling the records of how many people that are not reappointed, how long has it been since their last appointment. If they are 6 to 12 months, 12 to 18 months, these are the people that we have a really good chance of recapturing. Once they've hit 18 to 36 months or more, it's very likely that these patients are not coming back to the practice. So how do you get a hold of them? Having a regular schedule that is alternating between calls, text messages, and then using something that is mailed to them. And I find that when you use a postcard, it's got to have a little humor to it. You don't want to shame a patient for being behind in their appointment with you. If it's something where we all kind of can sympathize with a particular situation, it makes us much more likely to come back in. Now, offering some sort of a little special offer, especially for those patients that are in the 12 to 18 months, is going to motivate them to come back in. It is a lot less expensive to retain an existing patient than it is to get a brand new one. Another part of retention to consider is just delivering that great patient experience. We actually have a guide on this, that kind of perfect new patient experience. I interviewed personally about a half dozen of the best practice management consultants out there, and we gathered all of their tips and tricks on delivering that great new patient experience, especially even during COVID. We also have something you can download called our white glove test, which is a really good thing to be able to hand out to patients and make sure that patients are having a white glove experience with you, because that's how you keep them in the first place, because they're happy with you. They feel taken care of, they feel heard. So these are both completely free downloads. Go to our website, goldenproportions.com, click on the resources tab, and you're going to be able to download both of these documents totally for free. A good reminder for how important retention is just this statistic. A 2% increase in patient retention has the same effect as decreasing your costs by 10%. That's huge. Why spend that money in marketing when you can just keep the people that you've already spent the money acquiring? This is where you get a better lifetime ROI out of any given marketing strategy. So we talked about those foundational things, the basics between reputation and retention. So you've got the basics down. Now we need to reinvent you and ramp up some calls. So how are we going to do that for the last 4 months of the year? I want to talk to you a little bit about what we call the buyer's journey. When a prospective patient is looking at making an appointment with a new dentist, they go through a couple of different stages, and this is kind of the slimmed down version of it, where first they have to be aware of your brand, then they have to consider your brand, and ultimately decide on your brand. And your brand being you and your practice and their experience with you. The challenge is when we talk to dentists, often they really just kind of want to skip those first two steps. I only want the people who are ready to make a decision. But here is the problem. If you have not been part of the buyer's journey back in awareness and consideration, you're not even going to be in the decision phase. So we can't skip these first two stages. Well, it seems like you just want to go for the people who are ready to make a decision. There aren't as many of them out there. There's a lot more people that are in awareness and consideration, and you're going to open up your entire potential market if you are able to tackle the awareness and consideration stages as well as the decision stage. So I want to share some great digital marketing techniques that are going to help you get there. So within awareness, there's four digital marketing components that we find to be most effective as kind of creating awareness in the buyer's journey. And I'm not going to get in real deep with these. I could give you a ton of information on SEO and local search. I'm going to give you the highlights tonight. So the first one is blogging and search engine optimization. We're going to talk about local search, social media ads, and online commercials. Now, when it comes to search, there's a couple things you need to know. First off, there's three primary types of search that we all tend to go through. The first one is navigational search, which can be literally, I need directions from this place to this place, or navigational could be typing in Target in the search bar as opposed to actually going to target.com. So you're looking for something very specific. The second type of search is transactional. These are people who are looking to buy or make a buying decision. And I'm sure you're all going, these are my people. This is who I want to talk to. But we don't want to forget about this other group of searchers, which are the people who are doing informational search. They are starting their journey. They're making some sort of a query, researching a pain point. They're asking a question online. Here's why the informational searchers are so important. It's because they are 80% of the searches that are out there. If you just want those top 10% that are transactional, you are missing out on the 80% of people who will eventually become transactional. But you need to catch them in that informational stage before you can catch them in the transactional stage. So a great way to do that is blogging. When people are asking questions, blogs are often a perfect way to kind of pose that question in your blog and write an answer. It makes you much more likely to be found. This is what we call long tail keywords. So is tooth discoloration bad? I mean, that is in itself is not a keyword, it's a question, but it's long tail search that people are kind of trying to figure out the answer to their question. And if you have a blog that actually answers that question, you're far more likely to show up, especially when it comes to local search. So, adding additional content to your website at least twice a month is kind of our minimum recommendation. And it should be about answering those questions that are in that 80% of informational search. Now, when it comes to SEO, there's actually four types of search engine optimization you should be aware of. I'm sure any of you that are paying for SEO with a company sometimes wonder, what the heck am I getting for my money? Well, if they're doing it right, you should be getting these four things. First, you should have on-page optimization, which is often kind of done just when the site launches, but there should be some upkeep that happens here, especially when you're adding blog text. So it's things like your title tags, which are the words that appear in the little tab that is at the top of your browser bar. Header tags, which is really your headline and your subheads. Alt text, which is the text that describes a photograph or an image. Then there's technical SEO. This is the stuff that happens behind the scenes, but it is critical because Google wants to make sure that someone is maintaining the site properly. So it's looking for things like toxic backlinks, broken links, schema markup, things that you might not understand, and I'm happy to explain to you if you want to get on a call with me. But these things have to happen for Google to know that you're taking care of your site. The third type of SEO is link building, where you're getting third-party credibility from some other website linking back to you. So, for example, if you happen to have a membership in your local chamber of commerce and they have profiles for their members, and there is a link on their website back to your website, that provides some credibility. You would get even higher credibility if you had that same listing, for example, on the American Dental Association website or someplace where you have an accreditation for your continuing education. The fourth type of SEO is local SEO, and this incorporates things like having your categories done correctly, NAP consistency, which is name, address, phone. Getting these reviews, on-page SEO actually counts towards your local SEO. So there's a lot of components of SEO. This is why you want to work with a professional to do this. Even I know enough to speak intelligently about it, but I'm not the one who actually does this. This takes specialists who really understand how to do this work. Now, when it comes to local search, this is kind of the holy grail that we're all looking for. We all want to rank right up there at the top in these three little listings that Google gives us. So I pulled as an example cosmetic dentist Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Now Doylestown is about 3 hours from where we happen to live. Dr. Beth Snyder, client of ours, she came up second. She is right there, and she's got 50 reviews as opposed to the listing right above her, which has 13 reviews. And some of you might be asking, well, how come she's not in the first spot? Because when it comes to local search, it is highly dependent on the physical location of the searcher at the point in time. And like I mentioned, I am 3 hours away from her. If I were standing in the middle of Doylestown, she'd be coming up first. And you can see she's got a decent amount of competition in a relatively small town outside of Philadelphia. And so how does she come up first? Well, one of the important things, because I was searching for cosmetic dentist in Doylestown, if you see right next to her, her 50 5-star, well, mostly 5-star reviews, it actually has the words cosmetic dentist. Where did this come from? This comes from Google My Business. This is something your SEO company should be doing, but you might have access to it and you can go in and double check. So in your Google My Business profile, there are business categories that you can add. And within dentistry, there are some standard categories such as dentist, emergency dentist, pediatric dentist, cosmetic dentist. There is an order that these go in. So Google is giving priority to whatever of these categories is at the very top. So if cosmetic dentist is the thing you want to rank for, that category should list first, and then something like pediatric dentist or emergency dentist should go underneath it. So it's good to go in and double check your Google My Business listing, if only to see what order your categories are in. You can type in your own categories. I don't recommend it. In general, you want to stick with what the primary autofill categories are within dentistry, because Google knows that's what people are searching for and that's what it's going to reward. So when it comes to these reviews that we mentioned earlier, this is also really integral for Google search when it comes to local search. The things that Google is looking for, so Google ranks your local search listings differently than it does your organic listing, which is below these top three. It's looking at that primary category, which we just mentioned. The second most important thing are those reviews, which is why we talked about them earlier. Reviews are critical for deciding how well you are going to rank in local search. And again, think about those 4 R's. It wants to see how recent they are, how regular they are, how relevant they are, and that you are actually responding to those reviews. And then ultimately there's things that might be out of your control, like keywords in your Google My Business title. So Lewisburg Family Dental Practice, in this example to the right, not a client of ours. We live in the town of Lewisburg. They have a better chance of coming up because that is literally in the name of their practice. The proximity of the searcher, as I mentioned, I'm going to get a very different result if I'm standing 5 miles away from the office than if I'm standing in the office. And then ultimately it is looking at your website SEO, your on-page SEO that I mentioned. So local search has different criteria than your regular organic search does, but all of this definitely requires a professional. Now, your name, address, and phone consistency. This is really important, and it's a good thing to check to see if your search engine optimization company is doing a good job with this, because they should be looking not just at your organic, but your local listing. So a simple thing that you can do, go to the website moz.com, just moz.com, and then you're going to see where you can check your local listing. I want you to enter your address exactly as it appears in the footer of your website, and it will run a free report, and it will tell you how consistently that name, address, and phone number is being used throughout the entire internet on all of these directories. So it's important to think about simple little things like, for example, my husband's practice used to be on North 2nd Street. And Google is looking for consistency in whether we spell out the word north or when I do capital N period, whether I've abbreviated it. So you want that one-to-one correlation to be as exact as possible. Now, if you don't feel like doing this, feel free, reach out to us. You can get a completely free SEO and name, address, phone analysis from us. We'll run this for anybody, and we'll give you a really good idea of what's going on with your website and your SEO to see if things are lining up correctly. Another big part of the awareness phase is social media advertising. There is a belief out there somehow that running an ad on Facebook should be able to get you direct new patients. Unfortunately, not so much true. This is really used for the awareness stage. And I'm not talking organic social media, I'm talking true social media advertising. I get asked questions all the time. Should I be doing TikTok? Should I be doing Twitter? Should I be doing WhatsApp or Snapchat or whatever is the hot social media advertising platform of the day? Well, we only have so many hours. So, what I did is I did a little research, and this came from Sprout Social. This is in March of 2021, so this is extremely recent. And this was a survey of adults who had ever used this particular platform. So, you'll see I've got everybody on there from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and broke it down by the target audience that we typically want, people that have both dental needs and the income to support it, that 30 to 49, 50 to 64, and then over 65. I also put in there whether or not they're a college graduate because we know they're going to be more likely to be interested in fee-for-service care. So if you're trying to figure out where do I spend my money, I want you to spend your time and energy and money where you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck, where your audience really is. Now, we work with a lot of dentists who do major restorative work. That's where there's a lot of production value to be had. So I'm using this as an example. If I sorted these by where there is the most interest and most use from our target audience, YouTube is in the number one position. 83% of adults 50 to 64 use YouTube. Another 73% are on Facebook, and then it actually goes to Pinterest and LinkedIn after that. So you only have so much time and effort to give away. I want you to put it where you're going to get the greatest return. As fun as TikTok is, it is definitely not targeting our older demographic. If you see it in the second from the bottom line, you can see that the share of audience grows the younger it gets. So unless you've got a practice that caters to teenagers or really young families, I'm going to say that's probably not one that's worth a lot of time. You can do it for fun, a little bit of brand awareness, but it's not where I'd put your energy and definitely not your advertising dollars. Now, we mentioned online advertising like commercials. Here's one of the things I love about YouTube. There's a couple of different options for doing your online advertising on YouTube. And one that I really like is the 6-second bumper ad. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm watching a video on YouTube and the first thing that comes up is a commercial, I am either just waiting desperately until I get to the 3, 2, 1 countdown and I can hit the skip ad, which is terrible because this is what I do for a living, but I'm the same as you guys. Or frankly, I'm on another tab exploring something else, waiting for that ad to run out so I can get to the video I cared about. However, 6-second bumper ads cannot be skipped. They are short, they're sweet, they are great for brand awareness, and boy, are they inexpensive. This is an example for one that we did for a practice down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. 271,000 views, almost 96% of the people who saw it were new sessions, meaning these were people who had not seen it before. Almost 1,000 clicks, like actual legitimate clicks to see what this ad was about. It took them to a landing page. We're looking at a cost per click of only 69 cents, and this is for cosmetic dentistry, which is a competitive, expensive term in that area. So for less than $700, they reached 271,000 views, 96% of those being brand new people. Great avenue for brand awareness. I do not expect something like this to turn into actual new patients, but we have to have that brand awareness to move people into consideration, to ultimately move them to decision. Here's an example of online social media advertising. This is Dr. John Highsmith. We were trying to create some awareness of his cosmetic dentistry. We do still have a call to action and an offer that he has some consultations available. What this did, it took people to a landing page, but what I really like about this are the results. So within 30 days, we reached over 13,000 people, and there were 66,000 impressions, meaning those 13,000 people saw each ad somewhere in the neighborhood of around 4 or 5 times. We got 519 clicks on the ad at an average cost of $1.45, spend of around $750. But we also got a great retargeting list. So every single person who interacted with that ad becomes part of a retargeting audience so that we can continue our brand awareness and continue to follow people around. But a really nice result is on the landing page, we had 15 different people click on the virtual smile consultation, which is a great way to get people involved in kind of an initial consideration phase with your practice. Now, here's an example of one of the retargeting ads that might follow an ad like I just showed you, where we've just got this brand awareness and we've got a call to action, but retargeting is great. It's so inexpensive because nobody actually pays for the ad to appear until someone clicks on the ad and does something which shows some intent and interest. Now, when someone is at the awareness stage, they're having very different conversations with you and your team, and I want to explore that a little bit. So when you get a call from someone who is in the awareness stage, their questions are really generic. They're asking things like, what are my options, or how much does this cost? They are not yet ready to make a decision. Don't push them into it. The buyer is much more interested in what's wrong with them than they are in how to fix it. They frankly mostly just kind of want to tell you their story, even if their story is wrong. Just listen to their story and empathize. Educate these people, enlighten them, make sure that you appear to be an expert that can help them when they move into their consideration and ultimately their decision phase. What I've found is helpful is to make a list of very common misunderstandings about the options that are out there, and then kind of pre-script some responses so that you can help move callers into that consideration stage once you're educating them. So your consumer at this point, they're thinking, okay, I'm not ready to buy, but you've kind of piqued my interest. I'll think about it. They are not ready to decide. We have to keep them engaged. How are we going to do that? In the consideration phase. And this happens with reviews, website design, and organic social media. Now, I'm not going to go over reviews again. We went through that in detail, but you can see why it's an important part. You have to have that foundation, and that has to be ready so that when someone moves to the consideration stage, you're there. So let's kind of hop into the website design part of this. The user experience is everything when it comes to websites. Your user is looking for things like, is it easy to navigate? Does it load fast? Is this business local to me? Does this website literally tell me what to do next? Does it feel authentic to me? Does it work well on my phone? Because we know the majority of searches are being done on a mobile device. So here's a great example of a practice website that is easy to navigate. It is clear what the business does. It's somebody that is very familiar in terms of local brand awareness. Here's another great example, Dr. Heidi Brandenburg, where your smile is treated to perfection. You can jump right into meeting the expert. We know Meet Dr. Brandenburg, that link on the lower left. Looking at the About Us page of the provider and the team is always the second most popular page after the home page. So, a couple of questions that you want to keep in mind before you hire your next website company, because we know it's inevitable. Websites generally last about 2.5 to 3.5 years before it's time for them to be reskinned or rebuilt, only because Google keeps making changes to its algorithm, how things are coded, what design trends are, what people are looking for when they're searching. So websites do have to continually be refreshed. But to hire a good website company, I would like you to ask a couple of things. One, find out who's going to own this website and domain. Are you renting it, or is this your property? You should be able to take it with you. Unless you're paying like $200 a month, then fine, it's a rental. It's not going to get you a lot of patients, but it's at least something that you have online. I'd rather you own it. Find out if you're actually going to be able to edit this site without the website company. It's something you're going to want to be able to update in terms of adding new team members or adding new technology. If you're working with a freelancer, it's really important to find out if your site is going to be optimized for local search as part of your build. You guys saw how big my team is. I have website developers and I have search engine optimization team members. They're not the same people. So often when you're working with a freelancer, they might build you a beautiful website and they have no idea how to do on-page SEO, or they say they do and they really don't understand it because it's not what they do all day. Ask where your site is going to be hosted and how reliable the security is. You have to have a security certificate on your website in order for Google to even remotely consider you to be ranked. So you have to see that HTTPS on every single time that you are opening the site, and that tells Google that your site is reliable and you're not going to just disappear overnight. You're not a spam site. Ask them what is their process to learn about your practice to tell your story. Because to patients, a dentist is a dentist is a dentist. And like I just mentioned, the second most popular page on a site is the doctor's bio. That's because they care about the person who's going to take care of them, not what you're going to do so much. So you need a website company who is really going to interview you, get to know your practice philosophy, tell your origin story, something that's going to emotionally connect with your patients. I would ask them what features they recommend for a good user experience. A couple of things that we always recommend, for example, is online scheduling. That we talk about how the importance is of navigation and calls to action that makes for a good user experience. We've studied this on many, many websites. I would find out who will write your website. If you get an inexpensive template site, often the doctor is asked to write the website, to write their own bios, their homepage. They might be using cookie cutter content on the service pages. It's time consuming unless you went to school to write. I generally don't recommend this. You're going to want to work with a company who will write the site for you. And then ask them, are they building with templates or are they creating completely custom designs for each and every client? Now, the other part that we talked about in the consideration phase is social media. Social media is vitally important because people are looking to see, again, the person that they're going to interact with, the team, the doctor and the team. What are they like? Are they fun to be around? Does it look like they are relaxing and enjoyable? This is an example from March Family Dental Care. Dr. Peter March is fantastic with his social media presence. His team is very involved. So sharing yourself, what you care about, what you're passionate about, some of the behind the scenes stuff, not just clinical photos, is going to help a patient consider you and say, yes, I like this practice. This is someone I can work with. Now, another great example of things to share on social media are patient testimonials. You can use these towards the decision phase on your website, but I love these in the consideration phase simply because they start to share the emotional experience. So let me play this one, share it with you. This is one of my favorite testimonial videos we've done because she just has a great story to tell.
I hadn't smiled for years. And then when I met Dr. Raja, he's so full of life and happy. And he just made me feel so good because I was scared to death. Everybody is when they go to the dentist. I was going to have great-grandchildren. And all my grandchildren and everyone saw my teeth, and they accept me, they love me as I am. But I thought, well, I'm getting these little babies, and I don't want to scare them, you know? So that means a lot to me because now everybody in my family is just so proud of my teeth. I wouldn't go to anybody else. I didn't know they had dentists that way that was so personable and actually cared about you. I can smile at people now, and they're smiling back. You know, it just opened a new world and made me feel good inside, you know. So I couldn't be more thrilled with what he did for me.
So that particular testimonial is fantastic in the consideration phase because people are hesitant. They have concerns about comfort and fear. And so when they can hear someone else's story that shares, okay, I was thinking about this same problem that you're having, and here's the decision that I made, it's going to move people farther down that consideration tree into decision. So let's talk a little bit about the consideration conversations you're going to have with your patients. At this point, when they call you, when they're going to have a lot more information, they'll have done some deep dive research. The problem is really well defined. They have an idea of what's wrong with them. This is where they're calling and asking, what is the cost of an implant, as opposed to, just general questions about missing teeth. So they're very specific at this stage, and they're looking for advantages and disadvantages of each option. They don't want to just be sold. They want to be an informed consumer. It's fair to share both sides. Sorry, cat interruption. This is what we get working from home. And then ultimately, the buyer is kind of looking to establish buying criteria to help understand what this outcome is going to look like, technology, features, et cetera, that each dentist has, so they can compare and contrast you in this consideration phase. By now, the consumer is thinking, okay, you're in the running, I'll let you know what I decide. So now we're at the decision phase of the buyer's journey, which is where I know you all ultimately want to end up, but we've got to do that initial work to get here. So the 3 digital products that I really like for this are Google Ads, conversion rate optimization, and again, those testimonial videos like the one I just showed you. Here's what I love about Google Ads. If you are in any kind of a saturated market and you're having problems ranking in terms of SEO, one of the most popular searches is just dentist near me. Unfortunately, we're not always looking for best dentist near me. We're looking for convenience. Google Ads guarantee you will be at the top even if your SEO hasn't gotten you there yet. And we love seeing both you up into Google Ads as well as in the organic listings. They're going to increase your brand awareness as much as 80%. And then ultimately, they are 50% more likely to make a purchase than people who are just clicking on you organically because they are in the decision phase. Here's the other reason that you want to consider Google Ads. I did just a generic search, dentist in Washington, D.C. This is the exact screen cap of what came up before I even start scrolling, and it is ad, then map. Haven't even gotten down to the local search listings. Pretty much Google owns this real estate. They want to put your attention where it is most valuable to them. Therefore, if you are not competing in these areas, your competition is, and they have a much better chance of being clicked on because they're creating brand awareness being up here in the first place. Now, when someone clicks on your ad, you want to take them to a landing page. You do not want to take them to your website. A landing page is basically a one-page mini website, even though we have navigation up top here that says about us, our dentist, dental services, and contact. They really just kind of hop you down to specific sections of the page, which I'm showing you in these 4 quadrants, where you're sharing information about the practice. You've got a call to action. So the reason that you do not want to drive somebody directly to your website is it's really easy for them to get distracted. They had a specific search. Maybe it's emergency dentist or pediatric dentist near me. We don't want them to go to your website and find out that you also do orthodontics and cosmetic dentistry and implants and you have a special discount for seniors and you have a membership plan. They get lost. They get squirrel syndrome, so to speak. Now, your SEO is what I say, SEO is critical. If you can't be found, that's half the battle. You've got to be able to be found. But if someone clicks on your organic link and then they go to your website and they don't take action, you've lost them. You've wasted all that time and energy in SEO. So CRO, which stands for conversion rate optimization, that's what moves a visitor into action. Couple of examples of CRO, I'm not going to give you everything because we've got a checklist you can download, is, for example, using it in your hero images at the top of your website. So this is Dr. John Highsmith again. You can see if I am a prospective patient, I see he's the only dentist that's AACD accredited in my area, 200 years of CE annually, 30 years of placing implants. I'm going to have an extraordinary amount of trust in this individual before I even start scrolling down the page. So this starts to convert me. The same kind of reinforcement happens further down on the homepage as well as on his bio. Here's some facts about him, why you can trust him, why he is the right decision for you. Another thing that he does that really helps with conversion is he has a virtual consultation. I'm seeing more and more doctors doing this on their websites. Now, if you do a virtual consultation, this is great in the time of COVID, but you need to be responsive to it. So you need to have a team member who is gathering these pretty much as they come in, responds to somebody that says, we're going to take a look at this, we'll get it set up for you. The doctor is going to take a look at your, there's different ways of doing your virtual consults. This one in particular, you might upload your specific photographs so the doctor can do a consultation. Some of them are just like a video chat. But basically it allows people to kind of move from consideration into decision before they make a true final decision. And this is really big for conversion rate optimization. Another thing that's important in the time of COVID, this is one of the biggest patient concerns, is the patient safety guidelines. So make these front and center in your website, up in your header or some sort of a call out so that people don't have to hunt for them. We want to know exactly how you are going to keep us safe. Scheduling online, huge when it comes to conversion rate optimization. Often we are doing our searches early in the morning, at lunchtime, in the evening hours, and we need to be able to adjust for times that you're not in the office. We need to be able to take action. Another thing that I love is authenticity. So using custom photography and custom videography is absolutely vital to getting people to convert. When we're seeing stock photography, it's nice, but it doesn't feel as personal and authentic. Now I get to know the team who is going to take care of me. Strongly recommend this. Online chat is great, and you don't have to pay a service to monitor this. There's a chat service that we recommend called Talk.to, TAWK.to. It's completely free, can be installed on your site, and your team can have live chat opportunities with your patients. The reason that patients love this is the response time. If I submit an email form on your website, it takes an average of 17 hours for you to respond. So imagine I submitted it, 6 o'clock at night, and I'm not going to get a response till sometime the next day. That's a long time to wait. I might have already gone and picked another dentist. With chat, I can get a response almost immediately. I can at least feel like I know I'm making progress or that I have been heard. Even if you're not there, there are autofill responses that say, we're out of the office, leave us your name and email, we'll call you first thing in the morning. When people are at the stage where they are ready to have a decision conversation, here's what they're going to be talking about. At this point, they're pretty darn sure they know the solution they need. They may have already gone through a consultation with you, and they've figured out what their buying criteria are. It could be cost, it could be convenience, it could be what level of skill you have, but they know what is most important to them. So you need to listen for that so that you can help them make a decision based on cost, comfort, convenience, skill, whatever that buying criteria is that's important to them. They are looking for proof to minimize their risk, using social proof on your website, testimonials from other people. This is all absolutely vital because nobody wants to be the guinea pig that hopes they made a good decision. So things like testimonials, before and after cases, accreditations that you have listed. This helps me as a consumer say, okay, I'm making a good decision. Now, we've talked about both, awareness, consideration, and decision, and how you can't skip any of these stages. You've got to move people through the funnel. So it's important that you take a multi-channel approach. It's not like they're just going to see you in one place in brand awareness and in one place in consideration and in one place for decision. So you need to look at least probably one or two different things per funnel stage. So different digital marketing channels. And people are going to hop around. They're not just moving directly from awareness to consideration to decision. They could kind of go awareness to consideration and back to awareness again and then over to decision. We're humans. We're constantly kind of evaluating our options. So make sure that you're touching every stage of that ultimate decision-making process, all awareness, consideration, and decision, because that's what gets us to that final decision. If you just pick one stage of it, you're not going to get very far. This is why SEO is great, but it needs more than just SEO to get the ultimate final result you need. And consider touching every stage multiple times. We know from a brand awareness statistic, the average person needs to see a message 7 to 9 times before their brain even absorbs that they've seen it the very first time. So be repetitive. It's going to feel repetitive to you. It's going to feel brand new to them. And we've covered an awful lot of information. And I'm sure some of you are probably thinking, okay, how do I pull this all together? There's a lot of options in here. Well, this is what we do. We can definitely help with this. Anybody who is watching tonight, we are actually offering half off on a digital marketing plan. So you can get this complete marketing plan for $500 off. There's going to be a link in the email that we just sent you with this recording that's going to take you right to the landing page where you can sign up. or you can simply call our office, talk to Erica, and she will absolutely honor this $500 off the marketing plan. And we will help take care of you and get you kind of reinvented and jump started through the end of the year so you can launch into 2022 ready to rock and roll. So, what's in this marketing plan? This is not just a spreadsheet with a couple of marketing ideas and their cost. We get really in depth. We do a true marketing audit. We do a competitive analysis. We look at the demographics in your market, both who you're targeting and who's actually there. We do a very detailed digital analysis of your website, your social media, your online listings. And then we take all of this information combined with your goals and we put it into a plan. We're going to tell you what you need to do, how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take to see results, and exactly what strategies we think you're going to need to implement. So I invite any of you to do a couple of things. Go on our website and go to the resources tab and download any of those free resources. We have everything from photo releases that you can use with your patients to digital marketing guides to culture guides for how to make your team have a happier, more successful culture. You can also request that free SEO analysis from us, whether you do a plan with us or not, or we would love to talk to you about doing that complete audit and marketing plan to help get your practice kickstarted for the rest of the year. I appreciate your time and your forgiveness for the cat, especially your forgiveness for last night with my internet being unstable. Obviously, things are a lot better this morning. Thank you for joining me. Again, I'm Xana Winans. I'm the CEO and president and founder of Golden Proportions Marketing. Visit our website, goldenproportions.com, to do an online chat with us. We'd love to answer your questions, or you can just drop me a line directly, and we look forward to speaking with you. Thanks. Have a great day.